Lou, thanks for jumping on for the chat today. It's awesome to catch up and obviously hear about your experience and acknowledge your progress, not just in the program, but obviously over the last coming up to 12 months for you in terms of how long you've been in business. So, welcome to the chat. We'll obviously go through what strategies you have used to progress from, I think you mentioned even just kind of being in the program around that 3, 4, 5K and getting up towards that first 10K months, which is, super exciting and, a very important milestone in itself. But before we jump into that, I'd love to just get a bit more obviously about you and the business and where things are at before we met.
Right, okay. So I launched the business in April last year, 2024. Um, really had no idea what I was doing. Was very passionate about my product. Have a background in marketing, but sort of didn't feel unfamiliar with creating content, but the whole meta advertising jargon framework was sort of intimidating me, basically, on top of all the other things I had to do. So I took on an agency and I quickly learned that that wasn't really the right thing to be doing, but I sort of I was sort of committed to them for a 6 month period. So that's when so I think we got up to about, I think four grand when you guys came on. But what I saw was I went up like that,
Hmm.
and then it started going down. So even though I kept with the agency, what I learned, particularly with e-commerce blueprint, was how to drive the agency harder, and I learned to ask them the right questions. And I think if I hadn't been doing that, the sales would have just continued to decline. I mean, just for example, they didn't even have a retargeting campaign.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I went into it at one stage and I saw that it was all middle of the funnel. So they had no top of the funnel. And
Hmm.
to me, those really fundamental basic things, which I learned through e-commerce blueprint, I did not learn, I did not know that. I mean, I didn't know it. I didn't know when I started.
Hmm.
So I was going in at blind faith with the agency. And so that was one of the key things I learnt. And that really, really helped me. And it helped me get from grand to 10 grand in November.
Hmm.
I still had the limitation of the creative that the agency were doing a really bad job of, but even despite then, I still managed to do okay. The other thing that changed with e-commerce blueprint was you basically did all those, must-have set and forgets. So I just changed a few. There was those really obvious tweaks on the website that once you look at them now, they're obvious, but I didn't know back then. So there's some tweaks I did on the website and a few bits and pieces, pearls of wisdom that you imparted. And my what am I trying to say? My conversion rate pretty much doubled in the sort of 3 or 4 weeks that I did that, and they never went down again. So the agency might have been sending the right or the wrong traffic to the website, whatever they were doing, whatever we did with those tweaks, helped convert. And that was, those were the key things. The community was really powerful. So often, it's a really long, lonely road when you're sort of on your own doing this, and
Hmm.
just so often you just think, oh my God, I have a question. I wonder what the answer to that is. And you'd go into the community, and there's always people that would answer the question that had some really good insight. I mean, including you, but it was amazing how many other people came out of the woodwork and had some really good things to say.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I mean, a lot of people say that they obviously come in for their absolutely their own purposes and to run their own show. But yeah, the support that you can get from others, and as you said before, not just myself or the other coaches, is about, well, 100 minds are better than one, if especially if multiple people have been through exactly the same thing very recently, because
Yeah,
obviously markets change, ads change, things change. It's important that information is obviously up to speed and relevant and tried and tested that you can just run with.
yeah,
So that's a really nice surprise. I think that people get a lot of satisfaction and value from for sure. And as you just mentioned with the agency, I mean, we've had good experiences, we've had bad experiences. We same thing with a lot of people in the program. And the challenge we find with outsourcing things is I guess them in their own little silo, I suppose you could say, where it's like, yeah, I run the ads. That's kind of all I do. I don't take anything else kind of into consideration. And whereas us as business owners, we're obviously looking at the whole picture the entire time. And so it
Yeah,
is definitely challenging when the left hand's not talking to the right. And it's really awesome that you can come in, even though you got experience from other areas, but had, was very humble and saying, well, look, I don't know everything about e-commerce. I need some help. So for you to be able to understand all of that, and then, as you said before, help yourself manage the contractors and the agencies are really empowering, really important to know, I guess, what sort of dynamic you need to have or stance you have with people that you actually, employ for help.
yeah. And
So
agencies are really good at pulling the wool over your eyes, and they make it sound like there's all this voodoo magic and everything.
Mm,
But what I've learned is that it isn't. And what I did learn with my agency is they weren't even keeping up to date with certain things, and it was just, yeah, it was just lazy.
for sure. I mean that empowerment, as you know, is what we're all about. It's like, just if you've got the power, then you can obviously, yeah, advise and instruct, and then just make significant changes, which you obviously saw. And our businesses are forever evolving and forever needing maintenance and tweaks. And sometimes it feels like spot fire here, then on to the next one kind of thing. That's just the nature of it too, and especially with
Yeah,
scale as well.
yeah,
But it's been awesome, obviously, seeing you, and to get those really quick wins sometimes as well is, well, it's always motivating to keep you sort of going and
yeah,
get your tail
yeah,
up and build the momentum, which is really nice, which I think I know is gonna, keep going for you this year. I just know with what you've got planned and that next step in your journey is gonna be that's just gonna happen. I just know with your attitude and how you run things, there's certain types of people and attributes that people have, and you're definitely one of them. So it's
yeah.
just about
And
staying
I just
focused
need to
and
make sure I don't burn out in the process.
Exactly. No, really
Yeah,
important point. And as you
yeah,
said, before with, especially for online businesses, like we've got access to the world as owners, but we are in our own little bubble in isolation. If we don't have people to talk to or get sort of mental even relief from that know what we're actually going through within our industry, then it's, yeah, really can get really overwhelming and,
yeah,
and stressful and overworked for sure. Um,
yeah.
so you mentioned obviously the ads and some CRO. I think those are probably the main ones. I mean, I guess people sort of being in the position that you were, you probably say you're pretty green to the online e-commerce world, and you did everything you could to obviously get up to speed, including obviously joining the program and whatnot. Like, what would you sort of say to people in those early stages? Like, what did you find within yourself at that point, or even being on this side about getting help and direction, and what they should basically do if they're feeling lost and overwhelmed and isolated at this point?
I think find a community that can help you is really important, which
Mm.
is what e-commerce blueprint brought into it. Regardless of what you learned, it was a community of people that all had the same problems or issues or concerns or lack of knowledge. And it was quite, I actually found it quite sobering to go into some of those chats and go, oh, those people don't know about that either. It's sort of like,
For sure.
um,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think that's really important. We're all trying to solve the same problems at the same time. And some are more ahead than others, some are inspiring, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's funny when I went into it, I didn't really think the community would be as important as it was, and I wasn't really in the community a lot. I wasn't one of those people like some people are in all the time, and you can see that, But I'd just go in when I needed to, but I'd quite often just scroll down and look at the chat, and yeah, that was more powerful than I thought it would be. And it'll be the one thing I miss the most.
That's awesome. That's a really great
Yeah,
takeaway. And as you say, wherever that
yeah.
that tribe is, it's important to surround yourself with like-minded people just for all sorts of support. So, no, I mean, thank you obviously for sharing that, and congrats again on your progress. And I know there's so much more to come. And yeah, this will be really helpful for people. So thanks so much again for joining.
Cool.
Appreciate it, Lou.